Part 2, dealing with women. So we're at number 16, women are not liars. Keeping your word is a masculine trait in men or women. A person with a feminine essence may not keep her word, yet it's not exactly lying. And that's on page 58. What a woman says is like a cloud passing in the sky, well-formed, coherent, and unrecognizable moments later. That's on page 59. Do you agree with these sentiments? And referencing to the story in the book where you mentioned the scenario at the movies, how would you handle that scenario? It's like a two-part question.
Sure, I don't know if you're going first, Mason.
I wasn't going to, but I think his comments are a bit harsh there. Have I been in a scenario or situation where almost dependent on the mood and the atmosphere at the time, a decision has been made off the cuff? Yes, where it's been like, oh, should we go grab food from this place? If there's a bad atmosphere at the time, or we're in a bad place, or we've just had an argument, it might be a response such as, not fast, up to you. Whereas I know my other half might want to go, but in that 3 or 4 or 5 minute window where we've had a rocky patch, it's just answering off the cuff with a kind of emotional response rather than thinking in 45 minutes I'm going to be damn hungry and I really fancy that food. So yes, I've been in that space. I just think it's a bit harsh of him. I don't know. I feel like he's generalized a little bit too much there. And to say, like, even that first extract you read out, which is at the top of each chapter, he obviously does a little what do you call that?
We'll call it a synopsis, I think it is.
A lead into the chapter almost.
Yeah.
Even in that, where he said like something about feminine characters, reference to feminine characters or feminine ways when you kind of just change your opinion or something willy-nilly. Even I think that's harsh because he's just saying it's like, I don't know, I just find it a bit harsh. I find him saying that a bit harsh. I have been in that scenario, yes, but I find what he's saying a bit. Say that again?
What point do you find harsh?
Like almost that women's decisions can change like the wind, or women make a choice and it changes like the wind, because he goes on to another example about if you were to move to a different city or something like that, and at the time they might say yes, but by the time you sold up to go, they say no, like the woman said no, and it's just almost based on her feelings at the time. It's like she can't think of her head. It's just think with emotions. I've come across women that are real strategic. Do you get what I'm saying? That can plan and can see past emotions. It's just I think there's within men and women, with both species, you're gonna get more that might base the decisions off emotion at the time, and more that can actually plan a bit more strategically and realize that in that particular moment, their emotions might be overriding what their heads, overriding any sense of realism, but they can still see past that and realize this is my emotions. You know what? Let me take a minute out or whatever and think about this. That's what I find harsh. That almost like he's generalizing to say women just off the flick of the cuff every time they'll just change up their decision making process. It's all emotional almost. It's all based off emotion.
I'm not that there isn't much to add to that, but I mean, I would agree obviously what Mace just said there, really, as to it being a bit strong, as to them being like entirely emotional creatures, when obviously we know, as a matter of fact, that's not really the case. Obviously we know generally, I mean, it's known obviously women are probably more emotional than men, and obviously I know the terms such as men think logically and women think, I think, emotionally, and all that type of jargon. So I understood obviously where he was coming from within the chapter, but I would probably not agree with it entirely. But I understood the notion of it, and if I'm honest, the two examples now I think of it, but based on obviously what Mason said, they're probably like almost two polar opposites, really, as to wanting to go to the movies and then moving obviously to another city, which are, you know, the level of decision making required, you know what I mean, and planning, sorry, required within that. You know what I mean? Are just two different things, if I'm honest.
So what about in regards to the scenario at the movies? How would you have dealt with it?
Sorry, so the scenario of the movies was, sorry, if it's what the same as to what Mason was describing as to we've just had an argument or something like that.
Yeah, essentially.
What I mean, if I'm not mistaken,
What's your think? Okay, what you're thinking? I'll go with that movie scenario that he's referred to in the book. I'm not picking up and flipping around and all that stuff. I ain't got the strength for that. Yeah. So if if it was a case where I was saying, right, let's go to the cinema or let's go catch a film, and at that particular time we was in beef or there was an issue and my partner said, nah, I don't fancy it. I'm leaving it as that because I'm not playing this game. Anyway, my missus knows I'm not playing that game anyway. Like, don't, I often will like, something like that, I just be like, cool, fine. Like, I'm not playing this chase up game, like, nah. If it's something a bit more serious, like buying a flat or selling a property, then yeah, I'm gonna revisit that situation more than once. Something like cinema is quite like, okay, we'll catch it. Like when we're in a better place tomorrow or whatever, we'll just catch it another day. But I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't be like trying to smother up or not lick off, but like, come on, don't be like that. I'm not into all that. Nah, not into. I would have just left it because I kind of believe in like, I do believe in thinking, in trying to think more logically, and actually, if someone reacts like that, gut instinct or emotional instinct, and then actually 5 minutes later they made an error, well, now you'll learn for next time. I'm a big believer in that, like learning for next time, if that makes sense. So otherwise, no, you never learn. That could even be for a child. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll never learn. You'll learn. At least now you know. So you wanted to do that, or at least you know for next time. Something like that. So I wouldn't be like trying to beg, nah, give it like, oh, think about it. But no.
yeah, sorry, like I just read like the scenario again. Yeah, no, not really. Yeah, no, not really is neither here or there, if I'm honest. But I'd probably sit in the same camp as Mason, really, in that unless I really, really wanted to go see the film, then yeah, I might try, nudge her in that direction. But I mean, apart from that, I'm neither here or there as to I couldn't care less if I go to the cinema or not. It have to really be a film that I want to see. Like, what's that film that's recently come out? The one with Daniel Kaluuya.
Films were still getting released.
Oh, yes. I don't even know.
Oh, sorry, Judas and the Messiah. Sorry. So
Yeah.
unless it's one of them ones, yeah, like then I'm like, yo, like then I'll try and nudge her in that direction. But apart from that, cinema is not really my thing. But like comparing that to buying a house and moving to another city, like it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, so with that, just good point. So of something a bit more serious, if I know that actually at that particular time, if I can sense the person I'm speaking to is not reacting logically, I would revisit that conversation at another point because it makes sense. Because something like that is not a, you know what I mean? It's not a joke. You need to catch that conversation. You probably, even if someone agrees to that, you need to actually catch it 2 or 3 times to ensure that person fully on board what's going on. Brent, you're smirking down there. What's your thoughts?
In regards to the scenario, do you know what my first thought was? I'll just go cinema by myself then, innit? Like, if you're gonna make noise about it, if I really want to see the film, I would just go by myself. And that's kind of similar to you. It's like, I'm not really gonna play those games all the time. Like, you know what I mean? There's a time and a place. There's times I can understand there's a challenge to go through, that you're giving me a challenge, but something like that, like as you said, it's a minuscule thing. So yeah, I've got no problem just rolling by myself to the cinema. If I really wanted to see it, but I wouldn't, as you said, like put on a front just so we can go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
go on.
No, I was gonna say I don't think I'd go by myself. I think I'll just wait another time.
No, I know. French is not lying. He will go by himself. So I really believe.
Yeah, I believe that.
I believe it when he says that. Well, so in addition, I know there's other things in the chapter or in the book which kind of relate to it, as to not necessarily playing games, but having to play almost like a psychological game, if that makes any sense. I'm not into I understand as human beings, we need to, I don't know, sometimes encourage people in moving in a certain direction. But I'm not into playing stupid. I don't say stupid games. I'm not into playing stupid games. You know what I mean? As to really trying to convince someone to do something, or if someone is, and this is a really poor example. Yeah, I'm not going to go down poor example. Yeah, I'm just not into playing silly games. I ain't got time for that. I can't be thinking on my toes 24/7. You know what I mean? This is not a football game, or this is not American football.
Are you saying basically through the way of the superior man, like these are challenges that you should be tuned into, so to speak, and always be ready to flip the script, so to
You
speak?
see that word testing? Like, I'm tired of being tested. Like, I don't need to be tested on a daily basis by my partner. Come on, man. Leave it out. Leave it out. That's the word. As you were saying that, it came like, I'm tired of being why am I always being challenged? Why do I need to be challenged by my wife? As I said, sometimes as the chapter kind of reveals itself, it makes a bit more sense. But maybe I just don't like the word tested. You know what I mean? Am I in a battle? Like, I shouldn't have to wake up and feel this is what's that bloody game anyway? I shouldn't be.
Way out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, No Way Out or Royal Rumble or what's that TV show that used to have Midnight or
Gladiators.
yeah, it's not Gladiators when on that thing where doing a pole thing.
Jewel.
Yeah, Jewel. Thank you. I'm tired of being challenged. I thought being in a relationship should be more. Obviously, I know there's challenges in relationships, but I thought at this point we'll be a bit more settled and a bit more comfortable, and all the games are finished.
You know what?
Well, he said at the start of the book, I'm sure that it's either at the start or at some point, but he said it never stops, it never ends. So
no, yeah, as in challenges in your life, or challenges in your relationship.
Both. He equates it to the world and your woman. The world being your woman, in the sense that they equate to each other, so they're both going to give you challenges, and how you deal with one is how you deal with the other.
Actually, I 100% agree with that. I mean, but as to the challenges that have been, not that we're discussing, but are kind of like coming up in the book as to being challenged by your partner, let's say every single day, it's almost a case of like sometimes, I'm not saying this verbatim, but it's a case of she thinks, you know what, I know I'm gonna challenge him today, and then all of a sudden I find myself in this game of, I don't know who wants to be
I don't think it's that. It's in it, and I'm sure he mentions it, but they subconsciously, and I'm painting with a broad brush when I say but they subconsciously test you in ways that they don't even realize that they're testing you.
Cool, I understand that. I think you've articulated that very well.
But do you think it's the same the other way around? It must be like.
What's that?
No, good question.
It's the same the other way around. If I know this book is geared towards
men
perspective, or surely I don't know if there's an equivalent, the way of the superior women.
I think he does have something geared towards women. I'm sure.
Yeah, like a lady think like a man.
Nah, that's mad stuff.
Yeah, that is mad. But I'm saying but as to the it's almost a guide, isn't it? A guide as to how to navigate men.
That's the idiot thing, though. Come on, man. Have you read that book?
I actually have read. I've read most of that book. I've read the book before. I need to know what I want.
I know not to say we're going to go off topic, but what's your thoughts on that before we move on?
I actually can't remember, but I mean, because it wasn't that deep a book. If I'm being very honest. But I wouldn't like. I mean, I put up a post about that very recently.
How to navigate men doesn't need to be deep.
So say that again.
How to navigate men is not like, bro, we're simple creatures, bro. Like, it's. I don't think you need the entire
book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it was more in relation to dating, if I'm honest.
What's that?
I think it was more geared towards dating, if I'm right.
Okay.
If I'm right.
To be fair, with this, going back to the questions you asked for and this particular chapter, this chapter on the whole is actually painting women in a positive light, because what he's essentially saying is, if you're with your woman and you think she's changed her mind on them, actually she's not a liar. Like, what they say it's the overriding messages. She's not a liar, but by the same token, she's just more of an emotional being or creature who acts off energy, if that makes sense, in that given scenario, time frame, or situation at that time.
You've got to understand though, the author is a tantric teacher, so he speaks from a language of masculine and feminine. Like, it's not to be taken literally. So when he's saying about women moving on energy, because that's what they move on. It's an emotional, it's more wild, where men were more, I guess, stoic in a sense, where we're just still. So the two energies are just totally different. So he's coming from a masculine, feminine energy, not like he doesn't down, like he boosts up women in the book. Throughout the book, he's giving women props and empowering them almost as well. So I don't think it's a down. I don't know what someone will use the word, but I don't think it's a downplay of.
It's not being derogatory.
How divine women are and things of that nature. But yeah, before we get too lost in different conversations, I'm going to round up this last part where he says, the basic rule is this: don't believe the literal content of what your woman says, unless love is flowing deeply and fully in a moment when she says it. And even then, know that she's probably talking about her current feelings, not necessarily about her current feelings, but not necessarily about the subject of whatever she's talking about. And that's on page 60.
Cool.
Moving on to part 17, praise her. Men grow by challenge, and that's on page 61. Praise is literal food for feminine qualities. If you want your woman to grow in her radiance and health, happiness, love, beauty, power, and depth, praise these qualities. Praise them daily, a number of times. I haven't got no questions on it, but if there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, I might be wrong. There was one chapter, it might not be this one, where he says, it might not be praise, so excuse me if I'm wrong, but where he says, like, if, for instance, you want your woman to lose weight, rather than saying, I want you to lose weight, say something like, I love it when you sweat, or something like that.
That's mad.
I can't remember what chapter it is, but it just made me laugh.
Really sweat at that, right?
Say that again?
No,
yeah, he literally says something like that. He literally says something like that.
Yeah, but as to like, I haven't got much to add to it, but I mean, in some essence, obviously, it would be a bit of an obvious, but I don't think that's something we do every day, really. And I think, everyday lives, I think we allow those opportunities to say those things, whether it's to a partner, to children, or to your colleague. I think we kind of like bypass those opportunities. I don't know why, but I think it's just something we do, and I think something we should probably practice also a little bit more.
I'm sure it comes up again, but it's just that last note that I made where it says men grow by the challenge, just sparked a question that, as I said, it may come up again later, but just as I'm thinking about it now, do you lot seek out challenges?
I'm
sure, do you know what? It's going to come up again, so if you can't think of the answer now, we'll get to it.
Like in short, I don't think I'd go seeking out challenges. I feel these challenges have come in some way, shape, or form maybe towards me, but these are not small challenges. These are, everyone is quite monumental challenges. But I mean, I'm not too sure if I've gone seeking them, but I'm definitely going towards them. But then that would maybe, that would probably, that's along the lines of your purpose, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As to, it'd be, I don't know, it's almost like a calling, I mean, of course it's what I want, but I don't know if it's something that was bestowed onto me or something that I went in search of. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Miss?
Yeah, I would say I do. Even little challenges I set myself at the beginning of the year, even little things when I'm working actually, and I've just set myself mini challenges that it just sound dumb to someone else, but I have to do them in my head almost to realize something's achievable. So, yeah.
Okay, that. All right, moving on to 18, tolerating her leads to resenting her. Tolerating her leads to resenting her. When a man resigns and simply tolerates his woman's worth, woman's self-destructive moods, it is a sign of his weakness. His attitude has become one of wanting to serve women and the world into love. And that's on page 63. Do you think this is due to being inherently weak or a process over time?
It could be both, really.
Yeah, about to say, I think a bit of both. If stuck in a rut's the wrong phrase to use, but I think even earlier on when we were going through this book, one of the things I mentioned, I'm sure it was this book, one of the things I mentioned was about you've got 2 kids, and then you'll see people divorce later on in life once their kids have grown up, and it's almost because they're almost like in partnership to now raise the kids, or and it's just like I can tolerate, almost like, well, my life's here for me now. We bought the house together. We both work with 2 kids to raise. Let's just not try to piss each other off too much until the kids hit 21 or whatever. That's what I think. That's common in my head that maybe the statistics do or don't support it, but I've seen it in my own eyes where people's parents have just split up. You're like, you guys are in your 50s or 60s, and you've been together for, do you know what I'm saying? So I can imagine that. That does happen. And I don't think it's a sign of weakness. I think it could almost be a sign of almost like a partnership, like a business partnership, like for the common good, almost like you've got a common goal, but let's work towards that common goal, almost like a business relationship rather than a loving relationship, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, No, it could be both. It could be weakness where, I put it, one person's dominant and the other person is too weak to say I can be by myself and cope in life by myself. It could be the example I mentioned.
But I agree with much of what Mason said, actually, but not how I would describe it, but I think maybe, you said, is it a process and is it a sign of weakness? Obviously I said it's both. Yeah, so I think in it building, I think it's a process. I mean, sometimes you have to be consciously aware that you actually are in that place. And I think once you find yourself in that place and you decide to remain in that place, depending on your situation, then it also becomes a sign of weakness. If it's something you really don't want to do, then for me, obviously, you need to start make a decision as to what you're going to do next. I mean, again, obviously, I know I've mentioned this before within this series, that for me, time is our greatest commodity. I mean, the last thing I want to do is start spending time doing something I don't want to do. I mean, that's the one thing I really hate, and it's the one thing I've tried to change about myself. Even today, where I feel I've had a productive day, I've done things. The 3 things I've done today have been for other people. Waking up today, I did not enjoy the thought of waking up today knowing I was going to do those 3 things for other people. And that sounds really bad, in fact, actually. Obviously, I know I enjoy spending time with those people, but I knew I wasn't going to have much time for myself. So imagine, in part, with the example obviously that Mace gave in regards to being in a marriage, living in the same household with someone that I don't actually want to be with. Although I know you're raising children, I know that's really, really important. I don't know. We're not here for a long time. We're not here for a long time, and the thought of spending most of my time, that's another thing as well. Like, your home should be your peace. I know that's not the case for everybody, but that's the one thing I try to. That's something I should write down. Write down and put somewhere. Your home should be your peace. So if I come home and I'm now sharing that space with someone who I don't necessarily want to be with, for me, that's a massive problem. It's a massive problem. I've got to somehow find a way to change that problem. Yes, it may hurt my kids temporarily, but actually, for me going forward, it's going to be better for myself and probably better for the kids as well. I'm going to be a happier man. My partner or my ex-partner will be a happier woman, and hopefully we can obviously co-parent those children.
Cool. Do you want to add anything before I move on, Mace?
No.
Cool. All right. Instead of tolerating your woman's moods of closure and complaint, open her moods with your skill full of loving. It is your gift to give. Both of you will grow more by your giving than by your tolerating. A superior man sees his woman's moods as not a curse, but as a challenge and an amusement. And that's on page 64. At what point does it turn from amusement to a hindrance?
I think where it's grating on you to the extent where it's damaging your mood, essentially. The point where almost like it's how to put this. Yeah, essentially, it's grating at you to the point where it's affecting you. Like if you can take on someone else's emotional roller coaster and still and within yourself still be calm, still be okay, still be emotionally level, that's fine. But if it's having an adverse effect on how you are, if you start feeling low, like a good scenario, for instance, if for instance your wife has an accident or Mrs. has an accident, or if you say like your wife's battling depression or something like that, and you and then for 6 months you're fully there every day, but then after a while you start like, actually I'm getting no love back. There's 2 kids to raise. She can't get up and do anything, can't cook, can't wash, can't go to work, can't engage with the kids, can't help with homework. I'm having to do everything, and it's starting to grate on me. Then that's when I think there's an issue where actually within yourself, you can't cope essentially. Like it's starting to grate on you. So that's the point I would say. If it's actually starting to have a adverse effect on your own well-being, that's the point that I would say, do you know what, I can't deal with this. For my own well-being, I actually might need to, the situation essentially.
Yeah, again, obviously I agree with obviously what Mason said really. If it becomes that person, I don't want to say he or she because it also can easily be on the other foot. I think if it becomes that person, then it's a problem. I think if it's just I don't know, just say a random episode, then obviously you can potentially laugh it off. It's something that happened, and something you might look back on and laugh at together. But again, if it becomes that person and they become miserable all the time, then it's something that you need to take note of and potentially take action as to. But as to what Mason said in terms of depression, again, that's something that you will need to manage together. That's a bit different.
Yeah, and the actual scenario I've given, it's actually a real life scenario. Like it's not someone I'm close with, but actually it's someone that's spoken to me about the situation. So it's actually a real life scenario whereby the lady's family, some of their family members are saying like, he needs to stick with it, but then they're not realizing the adverse effect for him because the lady, she's essentially suffering depression, going to to see people to help her, like in terms of trying to get her out of depression and stuff. And he's having to deal with that with 2 kids.
And how long have they been married? I don't know if you want to go.
They've been together for a while.
What's a while?
For quite a while. But they've got 2 young kids. I think one of them is about 4 and the other one's 2. So they've been together from before that. So,
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, again, I forget. I don't know. I've lost my words all of a sudden. Sometimes they may get through it. He may get through it, or they may get through that. Whereas obviously another couple may not get through it. So it depends, obviously. Yeah, I mean, there's variables as to that. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that the person's actually seeing a therapist, I think's a good thing. In that at least they're trying to change their behaviors, or trying to find obviously what the root effect is of what the problem is.
Yeah.
Cool. On to 19. Don't analyze your woman. It is a very rare occasion when your analysis of her mood relieves her of it. Most often, your analysis and attempts to fix her will just piss her off more. That's on page 67. Have you found this an issue, and how would you resolve it now?
You work at. It's sorry, P. Sorry, it's just something you work at. I feel like, this book is a bit. Anyway, it's something you work at. No, but everyone's different, isn't it? Everyone's different. So like, for instance, I don't know about you two scenarios with past previous parts of how you've dealt with the situation in my maybe present or past life. I know that the best way to deal with this situation is spot on with what actually he says in the book about don't try and analyze. So just because I know actually that person actually just needs 5 minutes to themselves, within themselves, to get themselves together, and then actually you can have the discussion after. They just need they do need those 5 minutes though. So it's simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, who am I trying to change here? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I met you as how I met you. I mean, I don't see, not that I don't see why I'm trying to change you. Of course, you want people to be better people, but I'm not. I've analyzed you, and now I'm trying to change you. I don't know. That doesn't really sit well with me, if I'm honest.
I think it's analyzing the situation, the particular.
I'm not thinking of it of let's make it a real life scenario. So your missus comes back from work, and this XYZ is going on at work with her different colleagues and whatever clients is.
Okay.
Something's happened essentially, and she comes back and she has a moan, not a moan at you, but just like having a cathartic moment of just letting it all out, so to speak.
Okay, cool.
And as a man, you would naturally look at it from a logical standpoint and say, okay, here's the problem. Here's now the solution. That's what he's saying, like, because this is how I thought, because once upon a time, I would have just looked at it logically and be like, okay, well, if this colleague's done this to you, how about you then, I'll make a strategy and say, do that. And it's like, that's kind of blowing up in my face because, as he says, that's not what they're looking for, is for their problems to be solved by you, so to speak.
No, they want
just a release.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. Well, not say that specifically. I was going to say sometimes it's just a conversation. You know what I mean? I don't know if Mason said it, but sometimes it's just they need 5 minutes, and it might be 5 minutes to vent their frustration.
Have you always known that though? Because, as I said, for me personally, I've learned that along the way of recent years. Because, as I said, naturally as a man, we think logically to fix a situation if a challenge comes in our way, not just to listen and kind of let you work it out yourself. We're almost trained just to naturally just work it out and just get it done. Do you know what I mean? That always going back to the to-do list, getting things done, checkboxing. Like that's how I would say our minds are wired.
Very true. I think. Go on.
I was gonna say there's times when it is just a case of being a soundboard, but there is times when actually, what suggestions do you have? So it just depends on the situation, the scenario, from my experience.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing really as to suggestions. So I don't want to say more often than not, but I mean, with experience, it's a case of, again, be a soundboard, listen to obviously what they got to say, and then offer suggestions. And more often than not, I would offer a suggestion as to what I would do, and then the actual other options that the person can take up, which may include what I think they may potentially do. You know what I'm saying? But I'll make them all as equal as each other in reference to, I mean, they're all good decisions, like, in my opinion.
Cool. So, all right, moving on to just before I move on, because I'm going to go on to number 20. Is there anything else that you don't want to add?
No.
I
haven't got much notes.
Yeah, no, not from me.
All right, cool. So, number 20, don't suggest that a woman fix her own emotional problem. One of the deepest feminine desires in intimacy, though not in business or simple friendship, is to be able to relax and surrender, knowing that her man is taking care of everything. Then she can simply enjoy without having to plan it all herself and tell her man what to do. She can be pure energy, pure motion, pure love, without having to analyze all the options and decide which ones are best. That's on page 70. Do you think there's a conflict of interest regarding a female's independent and still wanting to relax and surrender, of being led?
Right. See, before you ask that question, the snippet you read out, that's bullshit. Sorry I'm calling that bullshit. And the reason I say that is because just in my situation, not every woman, if you go back in the book, he even says some women have more masculine traits, some men have slightly more feminine traits. And like that, what he's written or said in that book is just, I think it's BS, because sometimes women want to be pampered. Sometimes women want to be pampered. Other times they actually want to take lead of certain situation scenarios. So that's why I think he's generalized a bit there, and I don't think. Yeah, I think that's a. I don't. Yeah, I don't agree with what he said essentially. I forgot the question.
I can't remember what the question was. But what I was going to say was that I think when you
Let me put the question out there again.
Okay, cool.
So do you think there's a conflict of interest regarding female independence and still wanting to relax and surrender of being led?
Right.
Being led.
Yeah. I think there's a few points that come to mind. So if we're strictly speaking about independence and women want to be led. It depends on the scenario and situation, man. Like, Valentine's Day is gone the other day. I'm sure most women, they want to be taken. It's nice. They want to be bought a gift or some roses and.
So going back off the last question asked, I'll read a couple more excerpts and move on. The best way you can serve your woman is by helping her to surrender, to trust the force of love so that she can open her heart, be the love that she is, and give this love which naturally overflows from her happiness. That's on page 72. Then love your woman with your whole body, perhaps pressing her against the wall with your belly and chest. Pressing your love into her, breathing with her so that she relaxes her tension and surrenders to the love in her heart. And let her relaxation and surrender liberate the wisdom inherent in her loving. You have much to gain from the depths of her feminine gifts. And that's on page 73. Before we move on, I feel like you was actually in the middle of a point there, Mason. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I think just it was in relation to the question of is it a contradictory thing? Women kind of wanting or screaming out for this independence, but then needing or wanting to be looked after. But I think my overriding feeling that I don't know. I don't think you can put those two in the same sentence. I think the independence that I gather women were or are looking for is just almost to be on an equal par with a male. Whereas wanting to be looked after and pampered, there's going to be days where I'm sure men want to be looked after and pampered. So, yeah, that was my point.
Yeah, I understood the question. I agree with Mason. Yeah, I mean, what my thoughts were is it's not really, it's not like a yes or no, and I forget the what they name that type of response. Yeah, you can have a mix of the two, really. I mean, there's no reason why you can't lead, but at the same time, take a step back and let someone else lead, whether it's in a relationship or otherwise. I do understand why people would say, is there a conflict of interest there? But I mean, why does there need to be a conflict? I mean, as Mason said, obviously, equal pedestal. I mean, there's times when I'm very happy leading on something, but at the same time, there's times when I'm quite happy allowing someone else to take the lead. And that's really what relationships should be about. After all, you're in a partnership. That's my partner.
I think referring back to the feminine and the masculine and your deepest desires, this is what he's talking about. Your deepest desires as a feminine energy is to be led. As a masculine energy, you lead. That's your that's your deepest desires. Nothing like, forget about the social constructs of where we live. That's all very well, that's cool. But thinking of it, because you got to understand, this is what I'm saying, this language is of energies, masculine and feminine. So I understand a lot of what you're saying, but try and not dismiss the social constructs that we live in, but he's not referring to some of the things that the points that he's making in that sense. Like, it's just purely black and white.
No, I understand what you're saying. But I don't know if you're going to continue with what you were saying as to I don't know if you're going to re-ask the question actually.
No. Okay, I mean, for me, I don't think there is a conflict of interest. I think a female can be independent and still surrender to being led. Obviously, as Mace pointed out, there's different women. Well, we're all different. We all have more masculine and feminine, and sometimes it changes. So yeah, I definitely think it's possible to achieve both.
Yeah, so I actually agree with what you say. So I think naturally we both have different forms of energy, but maybe referring to what you were talking about as the social constructs, your environment can actually shape, obviously, how both of those are played out. You know what I mean? So if you come from a very tough environment, then as a female, then actually I'm not even too sure. Actually, I was going to say some of your feminine traits might not be there, but I mean, who's to say that they won't? But I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, okay. I didn't write anything down for 21. Stay with her intensity to a point. And the next part, if before I move on, is there anything that anyone noted down or wanted to say?
No, but I did understand stay with her intensity to a point. I think that was in reference to, I think maybe when they become obviously emotionally intense, and it might be actually something in reference to, I think the previous chapter, I think in 19, when we're talking about maybe them coming home from work and being maybe frustrated and letting out their energy. Obviously this might be a slightly different scenario. And I don't know, just staying with her really as to her intensity and just ensuring she's okay. I think there's a bit more to it, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
I understood it.
Yeah. Do you want to add to that, Mace?
Nah.
Okay.
A lot of these chapters, because they're like, some of them, well, most of them are a page and a half. So sometimes you don't really, there's nothing too much to take. It's just like, okay, thanks for that page.
Yeah, no, it is. That's why not every chapter I've personally written notes or put any questions down for.